This podcast was sponsored by Panic Brand. Panic Brand is a modern apparel store for the modern mean machines of 2020. By using the link in the description below, you'll get a discount, and a portion of that goes towards High Tech Low Life, your favorite YouTuber. And there's plenty of outfits to choose from. There's plenty of shirts to choose from, and I'm sure you'll find one that you'll like. Welcome to High Tech Low Life, and today we have our friends Kay and Elroy Jenkins. You should probably rename your nickname. So how was your day today, guys?
Same old, same old.
Not too bad.
Very nice, very nice. Anyways, so let's get down to business. Today we're here to talk all sorts of things. Let's talk about our first topic, the right to repair. Are you guys familiar with right to repair?
Yes, I've been looking into that more recently, actually.
Yes.
Yes, and so for the uninitiated, right to repair essentially gives you the right to be able to have your devices repaired more easily, and it also helps repair shops be able to get official parts as opposed to like third-party Chinese parts, as well as documentation, because a lot of electronics today are extremely complicated to get apart, and it's extremely difficult to replace components. Like your average person would not barely knows how to like service a normal desktop computer, much less something as tiny as your mobile device. And so what are your thoughts on right to repair?
I'm happy to see such a movement building behind it. I have to say, though, you have to be careful that the solutions found are long-lasting solutions that will have to continually evolve as technology does as well.
My response to the question is it's good that so many persons want this to be a new normal of sorts, because I think it's a disservice to consumers when so many times these parts for various technology are so specialized that you have to send it so far away in lieu of being able to rectify whatever the issue is yourself.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And a lot of a lot of what prevents a lot of people from being able to service their own goods is the software. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with how software licensing works, but essentially, you don't own the software, so it's not yours to tinker around with. You own a license to use said software, and it's extremely common in any sort of software, including video games. You don't technically own video games. You never have, and if video game companies have their ways, you never will own video games, and you never will have. And it's actually gotten to the point where have you heard of what's happened with John Deere and like farmers using their equipment?
Yes, I've been keeping up with that.
What about you, Elroy?
Please expound.
So essentially, you imagine the farmer types to like have all these tractors and whatnot that are like they're basically just cars. You can service them yourself, or at least in theory you should be able to. But John Deere, for whatever reason, makes smarter tractors and whatnot, and essentially it's gotten to the point where farmers that don't have access to like a John Deere facility nearby, they've resorted to using Ukrainian hacking tools in order to service it themselves. And it's actually one of the wilder tech stories that I've like come across.
Well, I'll correct you on one thing. They're a lot like cars, but they're a heck of a lot more expensive.
And if you don't mind prefacing my earlier comments regarding the topic, this is the kind of issue I was speaking to. It's utterly ridiculous given the kind of money that farmers would have to pay, because John Deere is top of the line farming equipment. We all agree on that. That they would have to go through these jump through hurdles just to rectify whatever the issue is.
I mean, yes, I mean, many would argue that Apple is the cream of the crop when it comes to like PCs. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'll play devil's advocate here. And Apple makes you jump through all sorts of hoops and whatnot in order to get repairs. Like a lot of the times, like have you ever like you've noticed like a lot of the times when you get like a laptop repaired, the cost to repair it basically is just the price of a brand new laptop. Like at that point, you might as well just buy a new laptop, right?
And I think that's kind of the intent, isn't it?
It is.
But you have to understand, and this isn't to go down wormhole and create another debate, but you got to understand in terms of the interface of said technology, depending on what it runs off of, some things you are able to fix yourself. Like that's why I'm an advocate for, and this is just my personal opinion, those technologies that allow you to use open source so that you're able to have an alternative versus something you may not be able to rectify yourself. Because the good thing about open source, there are always persons that know how the ins and outs of it, and they're going to ensure that you have the updates that you need to keep going versus you're going to have it at the mercy of a repair person who, if they're kind-hearted, they may do what they need to do and get back to you sooner than later. If not so kind-hearted, there'll be a delay for whatever reason, unfortunately. And we know
And
this becomes more of a charge.
and on top of that, a lot of the so-called repair shops are basically just mail depots, and that's, I think, becoming part of the issue in this whole fight. Is you try and take something in to get repaired, and all they're going to do is ship it off someplace, and that'll take a month or more.
Yeah, and that's why we need local repair shops. They can, if they can get the parts to the repair shop, and yeah, they keep a stockpile of like screens or replacement processors, fans, or whatever. They can service it there themselves. But the fact of the matter is that before right to repair happened, Apple, like I'm going to use Apple a lot because they're the big ones. They're the big one companies I can think. They're the big company I can think of. Like Apple actually just recently announced during their during their Apple event or whatever, I believe, that they're actually going to provide official Apple parts to repairmen and also provide documentation on how to take these things apart.
Have you looked into the specifics of what they're providing? Though it's a bit of a Trojan horse.
No, I have not. Do please elaborate.
The issue that it seems people are running into, and there's a lot of people cover this really well. The Apple is kind of giving a bit of lip service to right to repair, but realistically, they're not giving the parts that they need to, because what they're currently seem to be revolving around is, oh, we're giving you the same thing that our shops have. But the problem is most of their shops are not actual repair stations. They're, in effect, as I mentioned, mail depots. So they're giving, I think the most notable thing is they won't let you just have a supply of the part. What they'll do is they'll ship you one part, and you need to tell them exactly what it's going into. So it'll take weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that does make sense that Apple wouldn't just do that because, well, they would rather you just buy new. You know, planned obsolescence. Right to repair kind of gets in the way of that, right?
It cuts into their revenue.
Yeah, and so all I can say is if you're someone that's able to mail your representative or whatever, do support the movement by any means. I plan on doing so. Definitely. And any thoughts? Any final thoughts?
Well, I look forward to when this actually becomes ballot initiatives and seeing how states vote on this particular issue. Hopefully, we'll get to that point, unless there can be some other kind of resolution that could resolve this.
What about you, Kay?
I think we have done a pretty good job summing it up.
Uh-huh. That sounds fair. Let's move on to the next topic, retro game. What are your favorite systems? What are your favorite games of
Okay,
yesteryear?
point of clarification. Give a year reference that we're working with because are we talking 90s will be considered retro or are we going 80s and earlier?
Your childhood. It doesn't matter what actual year it is, as long as what stuff you grew up with, basically. You could have grown up with the PS2 for all I cared, but we talk
All
about
right.
that.
If you don't mind me taking the first shot at this topic, I'm going to make a reference and you will clearly know what it is. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start.
Ah, yes, the Konami code. I'm very
In
familiar with that.
particular, for the game that is very hard but a classic single player
Contra.
or multiplayer, Contra.
I've beaten Contra with the Konami code. I have yet to beat it without.
Let us know how that goes.
I might be dead before that happens. Let's just say that. Speaking of which, as for me, it's hard to say. The Zelda series is always top tier. You can't go wrong with any of them except for the three obviously terrible Zelda games that I don't want to talk about.
We will save that for another topic. Awesomely bad games coming in the future.
Ugh. What about UK?
Most of my nostalgia was the Nintendo 64 in general.
Yeah, I grew up with a Super Nintendo actually. It was also modded to be region locked because if I'm not mistaken, it was just a physical piece of it was a physical tab you just broke in order to be able to play Famicom games on your Super Nintendo. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting application because I remember I had a ton of games. I had a Super Street Fighter 2, Killer Instinct, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, Turtles in Time, F-Zero, Super Mario All Stars plus Super Mario World. It was all one cartridge. It must have been a special edition or something.
Yeah,
I've
I
heard
had
of
a
that.
cousin that had it.
Um, I know I've had some other games too on the Super Nintendo.
But Star, you never told us what is your favorite retro game.
And one
Same thing
more,
for UK. If you could just name one.
A Link to the Past definitely is up there. I Link to the Past is definitely up there for me.
Oh, Link to the Past is an excellent game by all means. They've kind of half redone it and several times now, I think.
And since we're on the topic of retro games, I don't know what it would take Square to do it, but can we please get a next gen remaster of my favorite RPG from SNES, Chrono Trigger?
You know Square and Square isn't the same SquareSoft you knew and love.
Well, I won't say that I was that in love with their games because this is going to be a hot take, but I've never played a Final Fantasy.
Ah, that is quite the hot take. That's quite the hot take. Yeah, you've never played a single one.
Not one.
Wow. Most people I know have played seven at the very least.
Yes, I know that's the popular one of choices. You often hear about 7 and 10, but I have not played one.
I wouldn't tell our mutual friend that you've never played seven. He'll try to get you by any means to play seven.
Yes, we that's another topic for another time. Maybe we need to have him come and rant over his issues with 10.
Oh, I was talking about a different mutual friend, the one that collects anime figures and shoes.
Yes, the era fanboy. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I've never actually. Yeah, my N64, all I've ever had for that was Super Smash Bros. And I found it on the back of a bus back when I was a kid. It was just in the very back seat, just there. And I did what any responsible boy did and took it home with me.
Fortunately, it worked.
Yeah. I don't know if I can still find my copy, but it'd be pretty sweet if I could.
But if we want to talk retro arcade gaming, the game that has my heart is the six-person X-Men arcade cabinet.
Oh yeah, I played that with five buddies back in elementary school.
But I'm
We
not going to spoil it for those that may not have beaten the game. If you're like me, you're going in for a surprise.
What about you, Kate? Do you have any favorite arcade games?
Oh, I've always been a big fan of the Episode 1 Racer cabinets.
Okay.
I think my favorite arcade games that I've actually played in the arcades, is Virtual On. You guys ever heard of that?
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
yes. Virtual On's a classic.
Yeah, so virtual art is on the Saturn, but it doesn't compare to the actual arcade experience.
And that was you help answer my next question. I'm like, did we ever really get a proper console port of it? But that makes sense. The Saturn was very rare, so yeah.
I'm
Okay.
st- I'm gonna be honest. I'm the only person I've known in real life that's ever owned a Saturn.
Ditto for me.
Did I was in you own a Saturn?
No, you're the only one I know.
Ah,
There was that brief glimmer of hope for a second.
yeah. I was about to say, man, the Saturn's a great console, but the issue was PlayStation came out and everyone's moving to 3Ds. Saturn was a very good 2D console. Let's not kid ourselves, but it was the 3D games. I can't really think of any good ones on the Saturn besides like Virtual Fighter 1 and
And
2.
if we think of possible future topic ideas, maybe we need to talk about underappreciated consoles. Because I think that would include the Saturn and the Dreamcast. Even though the Dreamcast had popularity, I think in the grand scheme of things, people didn't appreciate how great it was.
You're gonna have to write this down for me. Anyways, any final thoughts? No final thoughts?
I don't think so. No, I think we covered that.
All right. Now I'm gonna let you take over this topic, Elroy, because this is one you've suggested.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the topic are that Star is referencing is a recent announcement from Vince McMahon, CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment. And one thing that a number of wrestlers signed to his promotion do is they use third-party sites like Cameo, Twitch, YouTube, etc., and they often use their wrestling persona as a means of that's another way to generate income. And recently, because ultimately it comes down to Vince McMahon necessarily being able to profit from it, there have been some revisions in terms of how these performers are going to be able to benefit from said third party sites. And it's come down to Twitch and YouTube are acceptable. And there may be one or two others, but if they're going to continue to utilize these sites, they cannot use their wrestling personas. They have to use their real names. Now, for a lot of wrestling fans, there was a lot of criticism for this, and even in the technology world, this particular decision has long-reaching ramifications. So, Kay and Star, have at it. What are your thoughts on something like this being implemented?
Um, is there a legal precedent for this? Like if like any of the Disney star, if any of the Marvel stars were to take their Marvel personas, I guess, outside and like put on Cameo or even like visiting like a children's cancer center as Iron Man or like Captain America, something like that. Is there like a precedent for that?
To my knowledge, anytime the Marvel actors did that, there was an agreement reached with the parent company, so they wouldn't even dare to venture to do that. So, most cases, I would like to say yes. They err on the side of caution, make sure nothing would happen.
I see. What about
But
you,
in
Kay?
regards to just give me 1 second. But in regards to what Vince McMahon has implemented, I've never known of any other wrestling promotion that has engaged in a policy of this nature.
Agreements like these are not exactly unheard of. It's likely kind of a lockdown of control over the intellectual property.
I mean, yeah, Disney. I mean, I don't want to compare Disney to WWE because we all know who the real devil is here, but Disney is extremely infamous for their protection of their IPs and also, protecting the image of their IP as well. I think if there's one thing that's more important to Disney than money, it's the image.
Agreed.
And like I think they sued a school for having like unauthorized Mickey Mouse art like in the school. Did they not?
Oh, they don't call it the Mickey Mouse law for nothing.
Of course. So there is a precedent for stuff like this. So it's not like the WWE invented some sort of new like new way to stifle creativity, right?
No, it's not so much they created, but the issue comes in terms of just how much creative freedom are you going to be given if if you're working for an organization that has this kind of policy in place? Because And this isn't to bash those who are the biggest WWE fans, but there are other promotions you can work for as well, where you wouldn't have to even worry about this existing, and they won't necessarily have an issue if you're doing it, as long as you're not necessarily putting the company in the bad light.
Like, what other alternative to the WWE would allow this? What is there out there?
Um, if you can just allow me to name a few, you have Ring of Honor Wrestling, All Elite Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Major League Wrestling, and NWA. Oh, and Impact Wrestling as well. Excuse me.
And yeah, so you're sure that they don't have like a similar policy as well?
It hasn't been made public if there is.
I see. I see. Well, I don't have any further thoughts because I'm not really the kind of person to watch wrestling. I don't. It's not really something I watch. I mean, I know some wrestlers, like everyone knows The Rock. I know who the Undertaker is too. Anything more you want to say about this, Elroy?
I feel we have a solid summation of said issue, and for those that are more interested, they can definitely do research as to the resolution that was reached.
Okay, you should link some literature on. You should link some articles on this.
Will do.
Anyway, so any final thoughts, Kay?
No.
I see. So let's move on to the next topic: future episode ideas for this channel. I mean, so I wanted to ask you guys about what are some good idea? What are some good channel ideas? Because a lot of big YouTubers, what they're where they get their big ideas from, not their big heads, and certainly not my big head either.
And one thing that's always fun that will definitely give good fan participation is having an episode where we just answer the questions of those who listen to us.
So like an FAQ.
Absolutely. And we allow the
Yeah.
fans to ask the questions and we just go for it.
Uh-huh.
And we just let the fans know that we are going to pre-screen these questions for the sake of time. And while we might not get to your question on this episode, it'll be a recurring segment. So we'll try to get to the question when we can.
Yes. And any ideas for future episodes, Kay?
I've been trying to work on that, but I don't have anything conclusive yet.
That's fair. One thing I do want to expand on is making not necessarily game reviews, but game previews and reviews and stuff. I have one in the pipelines. I actually thought about publishing it, but due to what today is, I decided to hold off until tomorrow.
And some of the topics too we've explored, we're definitely talking about the worst gaming experience we have, so ultimately bad games.
One video I want to do is have you guys heard of Linus Tech Tips 2 Gamers 1 CPU series of videos?
I get the gist of what's being conveyed, but I haven't watched any.
So essentially, what he does with that is he gets a computer with one ultra powerful processor that he can then split up into different virtual machines in which he passes graphics cards through the virtual machine. And essentially it's just running 2 different computers at the same time. So you can, in theory, game on 2 different computers. It's not like real split screen, but like it's arguably one step better. And I want to do a PC build like that, but it would be difficult to just bankroll that myself. Would you guys be interested in collaborating on that one day?
I'm up to having further discussion about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. We could do like 4 gamers, 1 CPU, but on a budget or something like that. And as for future episode ideas, I think I have a few more, but I'm not going to spoil it right now. So let's move on. to the next topic. We read a random Reddit thread, and then we read the comments in there as well as the question. So let me pull up let's pull up one that ooh, here's a good one right here. What's a harmless thing that terrified you as a child? So I'm gonna link this. I'm gonna link it here. So I'm gonna ask that question to both of you, and I'll answer it myself.
So I had an uncle who um is very much he does art as a hobby, and he had masks that he hung on his wall. And for some reason, I perceived them to be faces, and I used to be freaked out anytime I would have to look at the mask until I got old, and it was just like they're just masks. But it was just something about the way they look in the dark that would freak me out.
And what about you, Kay?
I'd say back when I was younger, I used to have a little bit of arachnophobia, but I've gotten over it since.
Oh man, so I had a few things that scared the heck out of me when I was a kid. So the first thing, I think my family would definitely know what I'm talking about. But back when I was a kid, I was playing Mortal Kombat against my brother, and he played Sub Zero, and he ripped my spine out as a fatality, and like that scared me for like a couple of years. And and also like when I was in kindergarten, we were living at the old house. I woke up like in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I swear to God, I saw like a spider like the size of the bathroom. And so like I was out screaming, and I like called my parents to like get rid of the spider, and then I never saw it again. Obviously, I don't think it actually was a giant spider. I don't know what it was, but I don't know, man. It was really scary. So the top comment in this Reddit thread is the busy tone when a call went dead. That used to scare the shit out of me.
Interesting.
Another comment is that fucking alligator under my bed that wanted to eat my feet. You gotta turn the lights out and jump in bed quick to avoid its wrath.
Some tell me they weren't a big fan of King Karoo.
Another one is whenever the floorboards creak, I imagined myself or my bed falling through the floor into the basement. Yeah, and
After,
so
after you read that comment, I immediately thought of the intro to Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon.
so here's another one. Here's another one from Ask Reddit. If OK Karen was a digital assistant like OK Google, what sort of answers would it give you to certain questions? I'm not really sure. I understand what this question is asking. So
Can't you actually get like additional personalities for certain digital assistants? I thought I've heard about that.
I know with Waze, and matter of fact, that could have been a topic to itself. But Waze took the beloved Batman voice actor Kevin Conroy, and you can have him giving you directions as you're driving.
I know. Um, I had
wow,
a navigation, like one of those little early navigator things at one point that had a like John Cleese option.
what? Was it like a Garmin GPS?
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. They had a lot of voice options, and they even had the options to read out the roads. Oftentimes
And with
incorrect.
Waze, not only can you do Kevin Conroy, you also can use Cookie Monster as your navigating voice.
I don't really use Waze though. I'm already quite satisfied with Google Maps.
Well, with Waze, you get the style, but if you're all about your substance, nothing wrong with that as well.
So I think it's time to finally move on to the next topic. The U.S. government is finally cracking down on wares groups, and also we talk about piracy and the preservation of media, etc. Thoughts?
I think that it'll probably be about as successful as it always has been. That is to say, not particularly effective. Piracy's, I think it summed up well as, piracy in many cases is more of a customer service issue than anything.
I'm pretty sure Gabe Newell said that, did he not?
Yes, I think that was Gabe. One of the guys who probably more than anyone helped reduce a lot of piracy.
It's ironic because I remember seeing Steam for the first time in the third grade. I also remember hearing about how so many people hated Steam.
Oh, they still do, but
Yeah, Steam sucks, but it's the best option we've got.
Well, there's other things. There's the GOG and so forth.
Oh yeah, GOG.
But going back to how Kay basically alluded to it being a dynamic in nature, the people who engage in this find ways to be creative. So let's look at this for example. You guys remember Napster?
Yes.
So you remember the big controversy and a number of famous artists got together and basically said we got to shut this down, and ultimately they did. And next thing you know, LimeWire pops up, and then even when LimeWire wasn't being used, there was another mechanism. So that's the thing. You got to realize somebody's always observing these trends to be very crafty in terms of how they operate. And they're not going to make their intentions known because they know what happens if you become too well known. And let's just put a disclaimer: we're not advocating anybody to engage in this. This is just purely for informational purposes.
Yes, indeed. And so another question is about piracy is the preservation of media. So let's talk about some stuff that people don't want. Don't want like physical copies to exist. Didn't you mention something a couple years ago about the Christmas special of Star Wars?
I've watched the Christmas special. It's definitely something.
Didn't you Yeah, I thought you told me that like George Lucas wanted to burn every single like copy.
Yes, he's made comments to that effect before. Yes.
Oh man. And unfortunately, thanks to preservation, we now have it forever. But another thing is that if it's worth watching, it should be accessible to basically anyone that wants to watch it, like forever, right?
Well, you just named something that wasn't worth watching, but yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, I did.
And
And
disclaimer: the opinions and views expressed are of the show host only.
yes, this is not representative of high tech, low life media group. Not that it's a media group or anything.
I don't think that's exactly a controversial opinion, though.
Yeah, and also, oh yeah, go ahead, Elroy.
Okay, I wasn't saying that it wasn't any in any regard, but I just didn't want anybody to have the misconception that that we have some type of agenda when we this
Oh
topic.
no, hold on. My headphones died, so I need to get an alternate pair of headphones. Can you give me one, please? We're having some technical difficulties. All right, found some headphones. I can't hear what you guys are saying, but I'll just cut
We
this
weren't
out
talking.
in post production.
Yeah, we weren't talking.
That's fine. I didn't know if you guys were talking about. Anyways, so I think preservation is worth it. It's part of the reason why emulators have moved on from just focusing on being playable to being highly accurate, you know?
Can you repeat that one more time, Star?
So preservation of media is a major driving force behind it, though a lot of companies would rather not give you the opportunity to watch anything than have you be able to pirate it whenever you want. Nintendo's a big one, obviously, and It's part of the reason why emulators have, video game emulators have focused so much on moving from just playing Mario on PC to playing Mario on PC accurately, the way that a Super Nintendo would, or an NES or whatever.
And also, something else that game systems have done to crack down on the use of emulators is either they implement them as part of the playing experience, or they have a streaming service of sorts that will allow you to play a number of their classic catalog of games.
I You're talking about the Nintendo online service, right? I don't think it's good. I
And
don't.
not just Nintendo, but also PlayStation Now as well, because you can play a lot of backlog of PlayStation games.
PlayStation 3 and 4 games, if I'm not mistaken, right?
They go back as far as PlayStation 2, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, as long as they're giving it an option to play it, but where are you going to play Nintendo 64 games? Nintendo isn't offering that, right?
Well, not right now. We don't know what the plans may be for the next console.
Yeah, but there's a precedent for this. Because remember the original Wii had NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64 games, as well as a bunch of other systems like Genesis, the Neo Geo, Master System, Game Boy. And you know what the Wii U ended up doing was having less games than before. And now the Switch has even less games than the Wii U. And so I don't have very much faith in Nintendo doing the right thing here. And so I think it's time to. Do you have any final thoughts on this topic?
I think that solutions will be found to this, and we will probably have some developments that'll really help out, but I'm just not sure where it's going to lead us.
I concur with the sentiment of Kay.
Well, I believe having local backups of everything, not pirated things, but things you own, having local backups of everything you own is the only way to go. And the only way to really preserve your collection in a well in a era where we're moving forwards in terms of technology and becoming more digital, so to speak. And so let's move on to the next topic. Bitcoin mining operations are eyeing the RTX 3000 series. So, are you guys familiar with the Bitcoin mining craze of early 2010s?
Unfortunately, so.
Yes.
So, for those of you who only recently got into PC gaming and stuff like that, essentially what ended up happening was Bitcoin began surging in price. Like it used to be less than half a cent per Bitcoin, if not even lower. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin prices just started skyrocketing, and so people wanted to get in on the cryptocurrency craze. So what they would do is they would devote their hardware to mining cryptocurrency. And what these people would do is they would buy a ton of high-end graphics cards, hook them all up to the same mining operations rig, and just have them continually running and mining bitcoins or other Ethereum, stuff like that. And the scarcity drove these graphics cards prices up so high that they never came down. Any thoughts?
I don't think Bitcoin is valuable enough to be a real issue for this, hopefully.
Well, that's true, but I've heard the Ethereum Foundation is looking into this kind of stuff, and people that are mining Ethereum coin, they're looking into RTX because, if I'm not mistaken, because I mean, I don't own a 20 series card, but I've heard that they're quite well. they're good, but they're not worth the money that you pay for them. And surprise, surprise, this might eat up into supplies of the RTX 3000 series cards. And I was actually speaking with Elroy in private about possibly not getting him, but building him a gaming PC. And one of the things that I mentioned was getting an RTX 3000 card, because getting RTX 3070 maybe, because it's about to come out like in a month or so. And I have a feeling that, typically when graphics cards launch, there's this sort of scarcity because Nvidia doesn't let you pre-order them. But I have faith that, I hope that Bitcoin remains irrelevant enough for me to get my hands on a graphics card update. Any thoughts? Okay, Elroy?
I think we pretty much covered it well.
Agreed.
All right. So before we start this next topic, did you guys see the Nintendo Direct for the Super Mario Direct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so then you must know that one of the games is actually only going to be like available for a limited time, not just physically but digitally as well. And that is Super Mario 3D All Stars. And I think that's bullcrap because, they can keep the game. They can literally keep the game up forever on the eShop until the eShop shuts down. But for whatever reason, they're taking it away. They're gonna take it away at the beginning of March. And this isn't like a situation like with the Scott Pilgrim game where legal licenses or whatever got in the way. But like this is a Nintendo owned game developed by Nintendo, and I don't understand what's going on with this.
It's artificial scarcity to promote initial sales.
You're right. And Nintendo has a history of this crap, especially with the amiibos, and remember the NES Classic?
Yes.
And the Super Nintendo Classic, and then basically all of their consoles, including the Switch today.
Yeah, they're like scalped to hell and back, man. And actually, I'm seeing news articles about people having already scalped the entirety of the physical copies of Super Mario 3D World, Super Mario 3D All Stars.
In regards to games like the Death and Unusuals, there's been a precedent for this long before this was even conceived.
Yeah, but Nintendo literally has the power to stop it by keeping the digital edition up at least until the end of the console's lifespan.
Nintendo is at its core a toy manufacturer, and it's a very common business strategy amongst toy manufacturers and businesses with similar, schemes.
Man. Man, this it just rubs me the wrong way. You see limited run games, like they sell limited edition versions, physical copies of like indie games, but those indie games remain on the store for basically forever. And Nintendo, I don't know, man, it just rubs me the wrong way, especially with Nintendo doing this. People already give Nintendo a pass for everything. And this also kind of ties in with the whole like preservation thing, because after March 2021, if you like say can't afford it by then you're just kind of out of luck. You have to buy a Switch that has it, or hack your Switch. And Nintendo doesn't like you hacking your devices. Nintendo didn't like me hacking mine. Ah, man, I don't know, man. It's kind of stupid. Any final thoughts on this?
I think this is something that can be further discussed when it actually is released and we have a chance to play it, so we can revisit this definitely.
I like
Well,
the assumption that we are going to buy it.
well, I
I
mean,
think
it's
between one of us, Kay, one of us will. So, or we'll play a friend of ours. We'll figure something out.
well, I mean, it's three games that you've probably already played, and they're not even really remastered. It's Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy One. And I think some of the friends that are like big Mario fans have already played all three. Anyways, let's move on to the next topic. Anime figurines, Funko Pops, model kits. These things are becoming more and more popular, especially as nerd culture becomes more and more socially acceptable. What are your thoughts on that?
As someone who has a small Funko collection, I was fine with them having the niche where they were making the caricatures. But to go into full fledged model kits, I don't want them to go to the point where they're oversaturated because there are already so many Funkos as is now. They have to be real careful how they do this because they're going to enter the danger of having oversaturation to the point where no one's going to be interested anymore.
I'm still waiting for my Beanie Baby investments to turn good, right?
I think I don't like Funko Pops. I don't like the way they look. I don't like the caricature styles, and I understand. And like, I think, and for those of you watching, I think there's a better alternative called Nendoroid. You guys ever heard of that?
I haven't.
Yes, I have.
Well, I might have to take you off my Christmas list, Starlogical, because I had a Funko for your name on it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. But I mean, it's
All
just
in jest, because like I say,
yeah,
I personally like them. You don't. It's fine.
yeah. So Nendoroids are kind of like the chibi like style that they do, but they look more like the original like shows style. It really depends on which ones you buy. They're based in Japan, so obviously it's a bunch of anime stuff, but they have some for Harry. They have one for Harry Potter. They have one for Miles Morales from. They have one for Diva and Sim. Wow, they have one for Simba too. Wow, wow. There's a lot. You should really look into them. Oh, and there's one for Harley Quinn from Birds of Prey. Ugh. Have you guys seen that movie? I haven't seen it yet.
I
Yeah,
haven't
bye.
seen it now.
No, these Nendoroids, as you mentioned, and yes, they do have very good designs. They are truer to the essence of the character. I concur.
Of course, they're more expensive, I believe. I think Funko's
Astronomically, yes.
yes, Funkos have a advantage in terms of the price, and that's why people can afford to have so many Funkos. Well,
Never mind.
that and they also have like a disposable income that they clearly don't care about.
And that reminds me, I still need to get my Tom from Toonami Funko.
Is that a wow? That's a thing. They're making figurines of Tom from Tsunami.
Yes, Tom from Toonami got a Funko.
Oh,
And we all appreciate Toonami. Now, that definitely is a future topic we need to look at Toonami and Adult Swim.
definitely. Let's see. Let's talk about the next step up from Nendoroids. Anime figurines. You hate them, you love them, but you know one guy that has a billion of them.
No comment. I'm going to try my best because it's tempting to want to put a name out there. So I won't talk about our friend that we know will be all over the subject matter.
Absolutely, and out of respect for him, I don't want to talk about him, but I will talk about people online that do, because I don't believe he's gone to that point yet. So
It's quite, and this isn't to necessarily criticize people because people like what they like, but some of these people you kind of wonder if it's an addiction because it's quite scary when you're talking about a garage full of these things.
Personally, I'm going to stick to my Pez dispenser collection.
yeah, so a lot of the like people that you see online that have these sort of like obsession with anime figurines, they tend to collect one character, all sorts of paraphernalia, even the like illicit ones from Japan. Like you know which ones I'm talking about. And they like the sort of people that like marry anime characters. I've heard multiple stories of that happening as well. And I think that's a better topic for next time, but it's actually insane.
And I'm quite sure our listening audience know that a lot of times the word fan is short for fanatic, and I'll just leave it there in regards to what we're discussing.
Ugh, fanatics. Yeah, yeah. Replace the word fan with fanatics. Like when you're talking about like a My Little Pony fan, instead of talking about fans, you're talking about My Little Pony fanatics. Ain't that the truth, huh?
Yeah, that's definitely a good topic in terms of what does being a fanatic look like this day and age. Definitely good for a future topic.
I see. And also, speaking of which, model kits, Gundam model kits. Have you seen those before? Those are the next step up above anime figurines.
I think it's safe to say we grew up with those.
No, they're not. They're not the kind that you're. They're not the kinds that like you may have grown up with as a kid. I don't believe. There's a whole like galaxy of them. There's a whole. They're like really tiny, like essentially just Gundams that you put together. They're like a bunch of tiny pieces. I say Gundam because like I've bought a ton of those for my cousin to put together. And you know, if Bandai Namco is listening, if they could just release a master grade version of Gundam Death Scythe Hell custom, that would be sweet.
That's your personal favorite Gundam?
Dude, Gundam Death Scythe is awesome. He's a Gundam with like a beam scythe. I
No,
watched Gundam Wing as a kid. And, oh my god, that like blew my mind.
no. Starlogical, this wasn't a criticism of you being a Gundam Wing fan, because I caught the reference, but I was just asking a general question, being another Gundam fan.
Yes. It is my personal favorite Gundam, even though
So
it's
for
not the
me,
strongest.
not to be elitist, but I'm more privy to the original Gundam because that's one of those Gundam anime where you saw the Gundam having legitimate struggles versus it just tearing through any mobile suit. Because on some main Gundam series, unfortunately, that tends to be how it goes. Basically, you have a Gundam, you're basically going to tear through other mobile suits. But we know mobile suit Gundam. Let's be real. Char gave dang it, why am I? Oh crap. Char and the main character had epic duels, and the Red Comet was not a Gundam, but was definitely the highest end of mobile suit. So that's just like in my opinion.
Mm, yeah. Any thoughts on model kits, K?
I've never gotten too much into the Gundam ones or anything, but I was looking into some of the other forms of model kits before.
Like boats, or maybe like a
Yeah, like
ship in a
boats.
bottle?
Yeah, something like that.
And no, those are pretty cool, but those look way too hard to do. Like I like how do you? Well, you have to essentially assemble it in the bottle, which is like another thing. Oh my god. Anyways, any final thoughts on anime figurines, Funko Pops, etc.? No, I didn't. I guess not. So let's look back on stuff that happened last year. Remember the fire that happened in Kyoto Animation? Let's talk about them for a second. So, Elroy or Kay, are you familiar with what happened with Kyoto Animation last year?
Moderately, yes.
Same for me.
So, for those not in the know of who Kyoto Animation is, they animate anime basically. They animate like some really popular ones too. I think K-On! Is one. Lucky Star, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, Violet Evergreen, Evergarden, something. Yeah, there's a ton that people really enjoy, but there was
Some of our mutual friends' favorites.
absolutely.
Yes,
I know the one mutual friend who it's basically his favorite studio.
and and I mean, you talk about bad timing to go from that, and then here we are now with COVID. Wow.
Well, I mean, that was a different time.
Yes, but I mean, they who would have thought that's still going to have a impact in terms of how they're able to go about their operating.
Well, they've got a sequel upcoming to one of their more popular shows in the past few years, so I think they're probably going to be off to a good start soon enough.
Yeah, so it seems as though they've finally rebuilt and they're working on making stuff again, obviously. And it turns out that the motivation for the suspect was that allegedly the suspect claims that Kyoto Animation quote unquote stole a novel from him. And well, obviously it's been denied, but that's basically the motivation. And they don't seem to have a lot of works. Obviously, I guess they're still recovering, but this seems like they've picked themselves up. And speaking of fires, let's look at the Great Gender Reveal California wildfire of this month. I gotta say, man, I gotta say, man, California has a lot of wildfires. I'm not really sure. I'm not entirely well. I mean, I wasn't gonna move to California because that's like super expensive, but like, wow, that's a lot of that's a lot of fires, man.
I mean, it's kind of to be expected given their ecosystem.
Agreed. And let this be a reminder to our listening audience. Some things are best left to the professionals because if this pyrotechnic device was capable of doing damage of that magnitude, that should be something that professionals should be. You basically rent for a service of professionals to operate and not necessarily put in the hands of those that don't necessarily know the full ramifications of it. Not necessarily praise and blame, but we see the aftermath of what happened.
I mean, that's also, you have to remember that this is also an area where there's a lot of, for example, there's a lot of conifers in the area that do not actually drop their cones until temperatures reach about 450 degrees, and I think we all know what that temperature is roughly. The point is that there's a lot of the woodlands over there where it is actually a part of the natural cycle there to have a wildfire. It's how the brush kind of gets cleared up. National Geographic, I think it was almost a decade ago now, probably did a very good piece where they basically showed the wildfires and the result of it. And you'd expect it to just be barren afterwards, but within a couple weeks, it's full of greenery.
And so, what happens if there are no California wildfires? Is it just barren than after the wildfires?
I don't know, but I think it's more of the nature of there's a lot of plants there that rely on it. So there's a lot of plants that help it along, so to speak. It's There's also some controversy over. I think there was some questions over inadvertently introducing plants known for also causing wildfires, because there are plants that actively cause them. But I don't know enough about that topic to get into it.
That's fair. On the topic of the California wildfire, let's talk about how dumb gender reveal parties are. The only people I've seen that have ever done like crazy gender reveal parties like that are the obscenely rich Instagram influencers. And I mean, like, it's a boy, it's a girl. Okay, well, I mean, like, can't you just send it via text. Do you really have to have like an extravagant party for some give them all their gifts
I don't think
for
any of us
the
are the
My
target
suggestion
market.
would be
baby that you presume already know
my
you already
suggestion
know
would
what their
be just
gender is?
implement it during the baby shower. So you're doing everything at once. Because what's the purpose of having a baby shower if you're going to do this? I mean, that's just me. I think it's redundant.
When you're speaking of the gender reveal, does anyone know what the gender of that baby in particular was? Because
And that's
I
my
don't think I've
point. It
caught
can
it yet.
be all done in that mode because most of the time they're going to reveal it anyway. So that's why I'm
I,
like, I don't see where they have to have, a separate instance when
the
one
coloration of what,
event could
fire?
incorporate all of it.
Yeah, well, it seems like they're hiding the gender. It seems that they're hiding it because it
I
caused
wasn't
a literal
particularly
California
interested.
wildfire.
Based on the coloration, I would assume a
Who would
girl.
have thought? Anyways, let's move on from
Yeah,
this.
it's
I
closer to that
can't
than
eat
blue.
right
Balloons,
now.
balloons,
Have you
and
seen Have you seen
decorations,
the Have
things
you
of that
seen the
nature.
photos of like California skies and like Washington State, Oregon like skies? It looks like the apocalypse. And definitely so. It seems like a lot of the people just want to
As
move
people
away
continue to
into
develop
like
and
I don't want
build
to say they want
into
to move
the
into the woods,
regions
but
where
like that's
these
what they're doing.
forest fires are very common, we
And I
will
mean,
continue
Virginia
to
has a
see an
lot of
increase
space.
in these
Maybe
forest
some of
fires.
those rich people can come to Virginia instead. Take up some of the shrubbery because there's a ton of that on the high. There's a ton of that. Like when you drive down the highways, it's just like, oh my god. There's so like you can't even tell where you are half the time on the highway. Yeah, we should talk about that. Moving to different states. So let's talk about the next big piece of news. Xbox. A ton of Xbox
I
news
mean,
came out since the
Californians
last
moving to other
podcast.
states is kind of a
One of
topic
which
all to
is
its
the
own.
announcement of a brand new console, the Xbox Series S, for $299, and Xbox Game Pass getting a new edition, the EA Pass. What are your thoughts on this? So, prior to this news, EA Pass was its own separate like monthly subscription that allows you to play all of your favorite EA games for free. And now included with
Can you
Xbox Game
stump on
Pass
the EA
is that
pass,
pass
please,
as
sir?
well for no additional cost too. I've never played an EA Sports game.
Oh,
Never.
you say EA pass. Some reason I heard E8. I'm sorry, I just
I
misheard
don't
you.
think I've played an EA
Like
Sports game
I've had
since
friends that
SSX
have owned
Trilogy
it.
3.
I've just never played it with them.
What? That's a hot take. Never. That's the hottest take we've had thus far.
I mean, but it's not all EA Sports games. There's like
Well, I played Madden. I like the NBA Street
yes,
series that EA
they
did, but
bought
I haven't. Wow, probably something around 2015 or
yeah, they
16 was the
bought
last
PopCap a
EA
couple of
game that
years
I can
ago.
remember playing.
And yeah, they were the original developers of
But then
Plants
again,
vs
does EA
Zombies.
own the Plants vs Zombies
I
series?
believe so.
So
Okay,
the
so that's
last
the most
EA
recent
game
EA
I've
game I
played
played, and I do enjoy those. But yes, that's the most recent I
was
played.
Titanfall, I believe. No, wait, I've played Apex Legends. That's an EA game. And I've also played the Anthem beta. That just convinced me not to play the buy game. And I made the right call by not buying it. But I mean, the best part is I have Xbox Game Pass for like 3 years. I got it for like $1, and I get Xbox Game Pass on PC, on console, Xbox Live Gold, and I get EA games. What I mean, like, what are they gonna add next? Uplay Plus or whatever. That'd be sweet. Do you guys have Game Pass? I mean, you don't have to have a console to play on Xbox. So Xbox Game Pass, because there's a PC version.
No.
And so also Ultimate also includes
I'm-
xCloud as well, which
I
means
don't
you can
have
stream
any Microsoft
Xbox
consoles, so
games to
neither
your
do I.
phone. It's like Stadia, but good. I've actually tried the software out myself because I'm in the beta, and I'm not allowed to record any footage or
That is
anything
true,
of the sort.
but I
Otherwise, I
don't
would have
have
made a
it.
video on it. But it's better than Stadia as a beta. Like, have you guys remember Stadia, right? I believe it's on live. On live was just
I
ahead
remember
of its time.
Stadia. I remember
Too far ahead of its time.
I mean, isn't
'Cause,
Stadia
like,
technically still around? What
My
was the
internet,
thing that
I
predated
definitely
it?
don't remember having good internet for that.
That was it. Yes.
And I mean, my internet is okay, better now, but like, internet coverage just isn't great everywhere. Like in my city, like I would kill to have Verizon Fios or Google Fiber here, and I have neither of those here. But I know there's one city in Virginia that has Verizon Fios, and Verizon Fios is sweet. Do you guys have it? What do you have, Elroy? You Is a Verizon Fios available at your location?
I don't.
I do.
That's unfortunate.
Comcast.
I've got a
That's another topic in itself. ISP location bullcrap. So let's move on to the next topic.
No.
The Oscars. You guys are familiar with the Oscars. What are your thoughts on the Oscars?
I admittedly haven't really cared about them in years.
Personally, I'm not going to let anyone dictate to me as to what I should consider to be the greatest of films.
Exactly.
Because the Oscars, because my main thing I want to take away before people kind of wonder if I'm bashing, it's not a point of bashing, but it's the point of, I think far too often in society, we allow those within a particular industry to weigh us into accepting their perceptions
So
as to
the
what should be
Oscars for
considered
me,
great.
obviously,
But
like
to
you
me, it's
guys, I'm
like
not
interpreting art.
too
What's
big
great
on like
art for me
award
isn't going to be
ceremonies.
the
I'm
same
not
for
too big on like
Starlogical
the
or
Golden
Craze.
Globes for music.
But
I'm
it's
not too
okay
big
because it
on.
could be a great piece of art all to
I'm
its
not
own.
too
We just
big
have
on
different
like
opinions
the
as to what it
Oscars.
means to us.
What are the Golden Globes? What TV? Well, I'm not into that stuff.
The Grammys for music, not Golden Globes, Grammys for music.
And I'm not, and like even as like someone that primarily
I
plays
believe
video
so.
games, I'm not even all that interested
These are
in
small screen. I believe the Golden
the
Globes
Game
are for
Awards say
small
that they've been
screen
trying to
stadium.
push like for like
I'm writing that assessment correct.
a long time now.
I'm the wrong guy to ask
Like-
about this.
like like
Let me
like
verify.
one of the best
Continue
games
on.
that came out personally for me was like Sekiro. You guys played Sekiro before? Shadows Die Twice. It's a great game. You should play it, but you shouldn't play it just because it got Game of the Year that year. No.
I have it. I have it.
And like
And just for a point of
and
clarity
like
from our
the
discussion just a moment
Oscars,
ago, the Golden Globe does
I mean,
recognize
like I don't
movies
really care
and
about them,
television, whereas the
but
Oscars are
I do
solely
have to
about big
say that
picture.
this new move from the
Um,
Oscars is
the
possibly
Golden Globes are big
one of the
screen
worst
and
I've
small
seen
screen.
in a very long time. So there are certain requirements. You have to fulfill certain requirements in diversity in order to be contenders for Best Picture at all. And so, what are your thoughts on this? I don't want to sound like a racist because I'm not.
I don't think it's a question of race in regards to the criticism of the so-called inclusivity standards. I think it's a question of being superficial.
And I mean, another thing that
Because
I
if
have
the
to ask the question
movie
of is,
is
what
going to be
does
great, it's going to be great all on its
diversity
own
mean?
in terms
Does
of
it
the
just
context that it
mean
fits.
like I have
But
to have like one
trying
African
to meet
American, one
these standards,
Asian,
you
one
kind
white person, one
of,
Hispanic? Like, is that
well, you're not kind of, you're hindering the creative
like
process.
does it have to be like a rainbow, or like do they just mean no white or like a non-white cast? Like, if I were to take a movie from like South Korea, where literally everyone working on the movies are probably
But here,
Korean, does that count
I'm
as
going to.
diversity? Yeah, but again, my question is this related to the actors that are represented or the people working in the background? You know, the VFX artists, the cameraman,
Not according
the
to these
lights person, the
standards.
person holding the microphone, all of those things. And who exactly is underrepresented?
It's more so, it's mostly speaking to on-screen presence, but they do mention they want at least 30% of the film crew to be from an underrepresented group. And see, that goes to one of my criticism of this policy. So it's saying you have to have these people in place, but what if I want to put them in the most stereotypical roles possible? There's nothing saying I can't do that and I won't get the Oscar for best movie. Not justifying it, but I'm just speaking solely as to the rules that are in
Well,
place. So they're so
Virtue
general.
signaling.
There are ways to do this, but not have necessarily the best intentions, if you know
they
what I
could,
mean.
in effect, give lip
Yes, I've seen that
service
movie.
and pronounce it from the rooftops that they're doing something when realistically they're just working around the rules.
In other words, let me ask you guys: are you guys familiar with the controversy surrounding the movie Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood?
I've seen it a couple times, yeah.
So think about that. The criticism that movie faced. Basically, somebody could do a more modern version
Man,
and basically have that kind
I
of
I
controversy
don't even know
rear
where
its
to
head
begin
again.
because
So that's why I'm
let me
like,
preface
because
this
of
by
the
saying
framework,
that
if
I'm
they're
not
going to do
white.
something like that, they gotta be
I
have
mean,
more
that
specifics.
sounds like
Otherwise,
the
like I said, you
worst
could
thing to
have another
possibly
Gran
say,
Torino
but I
controversy
am an
again.
Asian American person, and so yeah, you're right. What? How are they gonna like like what does diversity even mean? And like like
Like, I
Like
mean,
they could hire all
really,
these
are they
Asian
saying they're the culture
actors from like
police now? I
Asia.
mean, that's what it sounds
You
like. I'm
got
not
you
trying to
got
jump to a
variety of
crazy
Asian people. They're
conclusion,
just
but
gonna
essentially
put
that's
them
what
in
it
one
sounds
kind
like
of
they're
role.
trying to
Either
do.
there be like Asian
Cultural
funny man,
policing.
like
That's what I get
Dr.
from reading
Kevin
this. Maybe
Jong, or
I hope
like
I'm not jumping to an extreme, but that's
the
just like I
martial
said,
artists.
perceiving this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else, but yeah, Ken Jong. Or they could put him in like a cat, or they could make him like a martial artist person, like Donnie Yen or Jackie Chan. Well, not so much Jackie Chan these days, but you get the point.
Ken Jones. Ken, not Kevin. Ken Jones. And let me, and let me preface my comments from one of the classes I took during my collegiate experience. The name of the class was called Minorities in Mass Media, where it speaks to groups that were underrepresented in terms of their media portrayal, and it spoke of Native Americans,
Oh,
African Americans, women, Asian Americans, and Hispanic Americans at that time. That was what the class was speaking to. I'm sure it's changed since then. But anyhow, it's interesting some of the same discussions that we had in the class are still relevant today. And one of the things that Starlogical just referenced was in terms of what kind of roles are they going to put these people in. And the thing you have to look at in Hollywood, because of their narrow mindedness, a lot of times they're miscasting because we know Asia is a big continent, but they will take a Korean actor and try to pass them off as being Chinese. Have a Japanese actor passed off another Asian ethnicity. So you gotta understand
another
these
thing
rules
is
are
that like
not
when you
trying.
start to
They don't
like
really do
say
a good
stuff like this,
job of
people
trying to
will
fix
just
those things we
jump
want to
on
see
you
improved in
until you
Hollywood. It
mention
could
like
make
what race
things
you are.
even
Like
worse because they're so
earlier, I
general in terms
mentioned
of just because we
that I was
have the
Asian, but
image
do you
of
know
these
what?
people, that
But
must mean
like,
it's okay.
do you
That's
know what
what these
race
rules
Elroy
are
is?
basically
If
portraying.
like you're gonna like jump on him, his arguments, like you should probably mention what race you are, man. Like I don't want to be racist or anything, but you know what I'm saying? That's fair. And what about you, Carrie? Would you be so kind as to identify your race? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, I would
Especially not for
qualify
the
as
woke
African American.
people of 2020. I don't know. It's just
Would it do me any good?
people. I mean, racism is a sort of like ingrained experience. Like I did a study on this during my collegiate period.
And being a communications major, one thing I can pick up on is when people are just trying to use superfluous language, basically to make it look like they're doing something, they're not doing much at all. And that's when you look at these things, that's exactly what they're doing. Because they're not saying that they're going to use a Hispanic character they try to pass off as Native American, which has happened before. Or they use maybe one or two Native American tribes to represent all Native Americans. They're not a monolithic people. So I don't see with this initiative where we're not going to continue having these issues 20 years down the road. We're still fighting the same problem in terms of there's a question in terms of the portrayal of what we're seeing in terms of
I
movies.
mean, the issue is it's. I've looked actually through the rules they put up, and they seem to match some of the other ones that have come through with similar things.
And
And
another thing with
my
diversity,
concern is
like
it's at best a
it's obvious
symbolic
that we're
tool, but
talking about
not really
diversity
any
in sort of
source of real
through a
equity or
racial
real
standpoint, but
justice involved in its
could they
creation. So
also
as I
mean
say,
like
it feels more
diversity as in like
symbolic than
gender
anything.
diversity and like transgender diversity as well? So like so it seems kind of crazy. Like if you wanna make it like let's say you want to make an Oscar bait. Let's say you want to make an Oscar bait. You want to make the next
In the case of
Schindler's
his
List.
rules, yes, they are. meaning?
Not necessarily about the Holocaust, but
It's
something that
covered
wins a ton of awards.
in terms of what they mentioned.
So would you just want to put like a bunch of different people with a bunch of different sexes and races, or could you just like theoretically make a filming crew full of all white people, but all different like genders and all sorts of different like sexualities, like the LGBTQIA plus. There's a ton of letters. Wow.
But the thing
Ugh,
is,
man.
in
This
terms
is a
of
lot.
the rules, the magic
And
number is
I mean
30%, whatever
diversity.
that is. So, in regards to just about most aspects of the movie, you have to meet that at a minimum. So, if you don't, then you wouldn't even be considered.
Probably the same people that have been running the Oscars for
But then the
years.
question also, because this has been a question in terms of who make the decision for the Oscars anyway, that's now a diverse room. So, the person that's going to enforce these new initiatives, what are the people in the room going to look like? Is my major question after reading this. But
Yeah,
see, that's a
and
major contradiction because how, on one
uh,
hand, you're enforcing
yeah,
these rules, but the people in the room don't look like
diversity,
the
man.
people who the
All this
rules would
reminds me
help
of
or
this one
supposed
time
to help.
in
That would be a major
college.
contradiction.
I had a sociology class, and that day Black Panther came out. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. But man, oh my god, I remember Black Panther came out, and my sociology teacher, who was for I mean, she looked white. I mean, I don't know if she was like any other sort of ethnicity, but she was raving about how diverse it was. But like, and then she always asked the one African American guy in our class what his opinion was about the movie. Is that not? Is that? I mean, like, come on, man.
And you see, the issue I have is that puts him in a very awkward position because black people are not monolithic. We have a variety of perspectives. And this isn't to sway one person to one political belief or another, but they're black Republicans, whether some people realize that or not. I know some people gasp like, oh, they're black Republicans. Yes, there are some black Republicans. So you don't want to make it like he's the only voice in the room, but just make it a question. Because that's the whole point of the sociology class. It's supposed to create a variety of thought. 'Cause, I mean, at least that's what I was always taught that the
I mean, he didn't
class was
really
supposed to be.
talk much
But
about
that's
the movie. He
another
just said he
subject matter. We
liked
can
it.
talk about our
But
college
obviously,
experience,
no one
what's
watches
true
these like
versus what
Marvel
basically is
movies with like
propagandized
a
into your
sort
mind.
of social
But I'm not gonna go
justice
off on a tangent on that.
mindset
But
intact. You know what I'm saying?
in regards to
So he
your
didn't really have
classmate,
a
that's an
whole lot to say
awkward
in
position to
regards to
be in.
like Afrofuturism, like all these like foreign concepts that I've never heard of in my life. Admit it. I mean, like not to be offensive or anything, but like I just haven't.
Mm. And maybe in this instance she wasn't doing that, but far too often that does happen, depending on what may happen in society, where the one black person in the room is like, you have to speak for everybody. It's like, this is my
Yeah. So I
perspective.
think let's.
I respect the viewpoints of others, but I'm not speaking for everybody. So that's why I made a reference to, like I said, I might come by looking at politics, because sometimes people try to
I
box
think
people
I
in, but
yeah.
it's not about that. It's about embracing the
Yeah,
shared
I don't really
perspectives
have
that
much else
people
to say
have.
on this. Do you guys have a lot? Yeah, you guys have a lot you want to say?
And let me clarify that. And that goes for everybody, but I just speak that being a black person. That's why I said that.
Well, actually, I do
Speaking
have
from
one
my
more thing I
personal
want to say.
experience.
That this diversity. My question is, will this diversity rule make films worse? Do you guys think that?
I feel like it's going to be brought up and ultimately used against people if they succeed, and say people will say, "Oh, they only were successful because of this," and that's
And also, we got to be careful because we're in the society, and this is definitely another topic. What does cancel culture really mean? You got to be careful because there'll be social media pariahs waiting to criticize
Oh,
you for one reason or another,
cancel
much
culture.
as Jay
Those
was alluding
vultures
to.
will
So
just.
the social media
Well,
impact is
those
going to be
vultures
crazy.
will
So
grasp
it's
on
something we'll
whatever
definitely
was happening today,
revisit
and they'll
in the
forget
future.
about it tomorrow.
And
It's
keep in
typically
mind,
what
these
happens
rules don't go into
with
effect
these
around
guys.
2024. So who knows how many times they're going to change the parameters of these rules between now and then.
Yes. So if you guys don't have anything more you want to say about this topic, we can move on to the next topic.
Well, we
It's
definitely,
the
like I
10th
said, in terms
anniversary
of
of
what
the
that really
Scott
means,
Pilgrim
that's
versus the
definitely
World game
good
being
for a
released. And
future
you know
topic to
what's being
explore
released
deeper.
again? The game. I've actually never played it.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I haven't played the game, so I'm going to be looking forward to getting to enjoy a first experience, which I'll mention on a future episode.
A
But I
sequel to the
will say,
movie?
being a fan of the movie and the franchise in general, I hope it builds momentum for the potential sequel, which we have mentioned on a previous episode. So I'm
I don't know
glad
if they could
that
do a
the new audience
sequel,
will
but they
get
could
the
just
fresh
make
experience
it
of
make more
Scott
like
Pilgrim.
one.
And I'm sure all of us have seen the movie. The director is trying to work on an anime sequel. It's in planning, so we'll see how that goes. But he wants to do, if he did, it'll
What
be in
would there
anime
even
form.
be though? Because Scott's already beaten all of the seven evil X's
No,
in the
the
movie.
director will be doing, if he did at least this. We don't know what a sequel may look like if they go through with it, but there's potential of an anime sequel to the original.
Because they haven't said anything yet.
I have a thought on that, but I'm going to yield to K for right now, and I'm gonna have my response as to what a potential sequel could
You've
look
watched
like.
the
So I
movie,
yield
right?
to K right now.
why would you be yielding to me on that?
You haven't? Hey,
That's fair. Um, I'm not exactly an expert on Scott Pilgrim. It's kind of outside of my area of expertise.
Okay, all right.
I haven't.
you should watch the movie though. It's hilarious.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So we're going to have to say that for a future episode, Star, because my idea of a sequel would definitely spoil it. Or has it been spoiled for you
Everything's
already,
been
K?
spoiled for
Let's
me.
save that for next. Let's save that for after Kate
All right,
watches the
good.
movie.
Okay. Yes, you really should,
Yeah,
and
but
that's going
yeah,
to
the
be
game is
definitely going to
back
get your
up on
reaction,
sale
K.
after being
But anyhow,
delisted
that's another
again.
hot take. My
Wow,
goodness,
that
K. But anyhow,
you know what that ties back into?
so
The freaking
Star, you asking about the
preservation of
idea for a
media
potential
topic we
sequel?
had earlier.
So
No, it's not on
okay,
sale now. It will be on. It's been confirmed to be on sale. To be on sale Q4 2020. So
is
if
it?
you don't have the game, you should probably buy it before it gets delisted again.
But is it on sale now? Because I was seeing holiday season 2020. Okay.
I think yeah, we should probably save that for like excuse me. That's gonna be edited out.
Oh,
We should
that's
save
an
that for a
episode to
Christmas
itself.
special.
The holiday
Okay,
season in
we
terms
should
of
save that for
meat.
a Christmas
We'll definitely
special,
have to cover that. And that'll be one of our talking
like
points.
a Star Wars Christmas special edition version of things.
Leave it.
You and I both know they're gonna make some sort of big Star Wars announcement.
Yes.
We could talk about the Star Wars curse
Wait a minute. Whoa,
for
whoa, whoa, whoa. This
actors,
is George Lucas free edition. No, no, no. Unless
but
there's some type
another
of
time,
big
of
Star
course.
Wars announcement made between now and then. We're not going down that
Hey.
rabbit hole.
So sometimes I wonder if it was. Sometimes I wonder if it was better back in George Lucas's hands than Mickey Mouse's hands. That's
And
how bad it's gotten.
let me clarify. It's not even the George Lucas edition anymore. It's the Mickey Mouse edition. Mickey Mouse has the lightsaber now.
It was commercially viable on George Lucas's, anyways.
Well, only thing, and I'll just ask this question: is it better for the person that had the passion to bring it to life, or is it better for the person that can make it commercially viable? That's just the way I see it. That's just me. Yes, but George Lucas, well, I see it on one hand that there was a certain
Yeah,
party that owned the rights to it,
and
that
we can talk about all sorts
the
of
commercial viability
Christmassy
wasn't the
topics
main goal
during
as they wanted to
the
get the
Christmas
story out.
special, the
Where in the hands of the
Halloween.
other, I see a certain
Yeah, let's save that for later. But
oversaturation where it's
anyways,
like they're putting too much
let's talk about the
material out
next
too
topic.
fast and you
Do
get
you
what you
guys
get.
have
But
any Amazon Basics
that's
products?
something we can discuss later, anyhow.
So for the uninitiated, if you've ever been on Amazon and you type in stuff like power strips or like USB cables or iPhone chargers or office chairs,
Yeah, I've used
you'll
them
find
No,
before.
yeah,
I do not.
basically anything that's in demand too. Like you can buy a monitor stand from Amazon Basics. But yeah, recently they just declared that
Basic,
Amazon
yeah,
Basics
anything that's
stuff
basic
are like
office supplies in general,
like
I would say.
major fire hazards now. Like there was an office chair that caught on fire in the news article that I linked to you guys, and and there's at least 1,500 reviews since 2016 covering more than 70 items, and they've described the items as exploding or caught their houses on fire, etc., etc.
Mm. Well,
It's the Note 7 all over again.
yes. And the thing you have to understand, that's why it's good to do your research before you buy a product because there's definitely a trend here. People can't argue that this is just happenstance. No, there's a trend in terms of where are these products being made and what could be the consequence if I was to purchase one of them. So I think it's good. Well, at least for me personally, I would steer clear of them right now as they work until they get some better standards in terms of whatever the
Yeah, like another
construction
thing to mention
processes are
though
when
is
making these
that
There
items.
are some
while we're on the
very
topic of Amazon,
reputable
have you
and
guys you
still
guys have noticed the
inexpensive
like
companies, even on
surge of like
Amazon,
fake
and
Chinese
that I've
goods
had good experiences with,
going
and
on
I tend to
Amazon,
just kind
right?
of go with them
Not
whenever
necessarily fake,
possible.
but like just Chinese goods. Like they go under often weird brand names. Like I don't even like. Hold on, let me pull up a. What should I search up? I'll tell you guys.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
oh yeah. I I know what you're talking about, where there will be 5 items that are all the same thing but sold under 5 different brands. I mean, you see a lot of that with Amazon. I want to say,
Yeah, I
flashlights are a good
understand. And
example of
like,
that, just to give
I'm
an
gonna use a
example.
flashlight example right now. Just pulled it up on
Or
the tab.
even certain
These
clothing,
there are brands
there'll be
like
some weird label.
Ever
Then when
Ready.
you get
You
it, the
guys ever heard of that
patch will not
brand?
match what you saw as the label. So it's very deceptive
Uh,
advertising as
House
well. That's
Bell.
something else that will fall under the umbrella.
HAUSBELL. Yeah, y'all ever heard of that? No. Oh boy, why?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Hmm. No.
Wow.
No, but I've heard of them. That they're actually one of the ones I was going to bring up when it came to flashlights.
Jesus.
They
Man, like,
have one of the products that's sold
oh,
by
I
5
like,
different companies.
and like the thing with them is that like there are a lot of these like
The little
Amazon
LED
reviewers on
lanterns,
like
I think,
Facebook and
is the thing
whatnot
I was thinking of.
that will that basically how it works is that you buy their products and review it, give them a 5 star. It doesn't matter how good the quality is or not, and you can like get a free product. And sometimes the products are actually good. Sometimes they're like trash, like flash drives. Like, don't ever buy a flash drive from a brand you've never heard of ever, or any sort of like memory. Like, I bought a flash drive from one of these guys, and I did it knowingly because like I wanted to test out to see
That
how fake it was
there's a few
myself.
specific items.
It was a
Anything
200. It
involving
was a quote.
power
It was a quote
management, I
unquote
also avoid
256
no
gigabyte
names.
flash drive. Okay, and
Agreed.
you know how much it held? Like maybe 32 gigs. Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I don't know. Amazon has just been really unreliable as of lately when you want to find legit products. You have to basically already know what products you want.
Oh, I've heard about
It's
that.
not a good discoverability platform. Speaking of which, maybe I should buy this RGB desk. Do you think I should buy this RGB desk? Well, I mean, it's basically just a desk, but it like glows rainbow colors, like my computer. Of course not. It's $300
I
for.
mean, I'm not too
Well,
familiar with that kind of equipment
tables
in
are usually
general.
that much, are they? Or are they more or less expensive? I don't really buy furniture.
Hmm. That's not a necessity.
Dude, you know it, man. I'm gonna buy a ton of these desks. I'm gonna like tape them to the walls, and that'll be my like rave lights.
Hmm. But let me ask. So, if you get say a death when COVID-19 over, are we invited to the rave?
Oh, dude, the ones that like catch on fire, dude, that's sick. Uh,
I'll provide the glow sticks.
oh
K, what are
man,
you providing?
is it gonna be like one of those gender reveal smudge
I'll
machines? It's
have to
got to be
think
one
on
of
that
those.
one. One of those fog machines. How about that? Oh yeah, yeah.
I think I think
Relevant
Elroy's
to
had
our
enough
current
of our
topic.
jokes.
No.
Yes, our next topic at hand. So, is there anything you guys want to talk about in particular?
No.
Anything that's popped up recently that
And I
I
know
might have
I'm
not been able
responsible
to
for
put
this,
down
but
on the
no,
topic
we
list?
need to stop with the whole Alice in
Anything that
Wonderland
came up
journey into the
today?
abyss. So we should move on to our next topic.
Like the stories? the heck is that? I've never.
Did we ever cover the Instagram replacement to TikTok? No, Reels. Reels on Instagram. They're equivalent of TikTok. Well, Facebook's equivalent of TikTok.
Jesus, people are. I mean,
So
like,
you remember
what the
there a
heck
lot
is
of talk
TikTok
over
even
in the
really
U.S.
for?
won't
Just
have
like
access to
making
TikTok
stupid
anymore.
videos of you
So
lip syncing
Facebook developed
songs. And that's
for
it.
Instagram an extension of it called Reels, which you
Well,
essentially are able to do TikTok videos on Instagram. So you use Reels in lieu of using TikTok.
so I've actually asked this question to someone I know that's actually like a brand ambassador to one of
It's
the
a
brands that
brand
I've worked
influence in
with in the
Apple stores
past,
because
and
it's not
they
just that, but
mentioned
it's also a
that
way
TikTok was a
for
good way to get
political
your brand out there in
advertisements.
case you
You
wanted
can
to
market
like
products. So sometimes
become
it's
an
for people's personal
influencer. And
marketing as well.
I don't really want to put in the work to be a TikTok star. Yeah, but I remember she also
Yeah,
told me that I should get into as many as I want as I can, so to speak.
well, I mean, you
Unfortunately, that
don't.
doesn't
TikTok's just one
include
option because
TikTok.
you have a number of social
And,
media options: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All are viable options if you're trying to be a brand
I
influencer.
wasn't going to do
On
TikTok
YouTube as
anyways.
well. Got to add YouTube too. I I don't see that as a plausible strategy. What about you? What would you
Let's say
say,
for
Craig?
us,
Would you say
high
that's
tech, low
plausible for
life.
anybody that would
Now on
consider being a
TikTok and
brand
Instagram
influencer?
and
Should they
Facebook and
should they focus on what's
uh,
best suited to what their expertise is, or should
Baidu,
they
the
just be
Chinese like
oversaturated
Facebook
and
or
just get on
whatever.
all of them just cause?
I mean, it depends on your business strategy.
Oh yeah, specialized, dude. I'm told.
I said we should stick to being specialized. That's just my opinion. Because there's here's the problem when you're talking about brand influencing. When not done well, you just
Well, I
stretch yourself
mean,
thin and you're
that's
oversaturated,
true.
and you get to the
You know,
point where
I'd love to
basically
be a bigger
you'll
channel
be
one
famous
day, but
for
like not like this.
you'll be famous for the wrong reason in terms of you
Not like
being
this.
famous for
Not
being
on TikTok.
criticized.
I
And
haven't.
you're a joke, and it's just like you just oh there you go trying to grab attention again.
The what now? Some people already think that too, but I don't really
Because
care. I just
put
want
it
to
this
make
way,
good
I don't
content.
want high tech low
Yes.
life to become the Yule Bowl of social media. And I'm sure some people caught that example in terms of he's known for making
The
some of the
Tide Pod
worst movies you can
challenge,
imagine.
man.
So that's
Have you heard
why
the newest
I don't want us
challenge?
to get to
The
that point because there's
Holocaust
some people that
challenge?
do that. So they try to get as much attention as they can because they believe in there's no such thing as bad publicity. But we're not trying to do that.
Okay. So, essentially, it's not it's not super offensive.
The cinnamon challenge. I don't even
I'm
want to
afraid to
know.
ask.
All right, well, we'll not talk about this today.
Where
We'll talk about it
star?
another time when we give a
No.
retrospective of
No.
the
Just
worst
leave. Maybe
internet
it's a
trends to have
off
ever existed, like the Tide Pod challenge.
panel discussion. But yeah,
Has
not
anyone
that
actually died
important.
from doing that? Well, we'll figure. Well, I'll look into that later. But in the meantime, though, brand influencing. I want to do some. I want to do cool stuff with technology. I don't want to just reviewing stuff all the time is fun too
I
because
don't know.
there's some stuff I like. There's some stuff I like that I like to share with my audience, our audience. Remember, it's not just me anymore. You guys are in on it too, kind of. Would you guys be interested in reviewing anything in particular? Anything you guys own, like your laptops or something? That is fair. That is fair. Well, we could talk about that another time. In the meantime, though, I think the podcast has come to a close. Wow, we've
That's
done
a
it for
discussion
about
that I'd be worth
an hour
engaging
and a
in the
half, an hour
future.
45. Not bad. All right, time to conclude this podcast. See you guys later. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.